Good evening, I'm Jason Vio. Katarina is away tonight. This is CBC Windsor News. Thank you for watching. Tonight, years after solving the case of a 6-year-old girl assaulted and killed in Windsor, police have finally released the name of the man they say did it. Plus, the death toll in the Turkey and Syria earthquake continues to rise, and concern for those who survived is also top of mind. Saving the Reptiles, a new provincial program, will help protect the environment of species at risk here in Windsor. And a new version of Jeopardy has popped up in Chatham, Kent. The focus, local Black history. It was a question that haunted people in the city for decades. Who killed 6-year-old Lubica Topic? Police knew the answer in 2019, announcing the cold case was solved, but they refused to release the name of the man detectives say murdered Topic in 1971. At the time, they argued that he was dead and couldn't defend himself in court, and now they've changed their mind. Police say it was Frank Arthur Hall who killed the young girl. The CBC's Dale Molnar now with reaction and why police changed course.
This is the man police say abducted, sexually assaulted, and murdered Lubica Topic. Frank Arthur Hall, who died in 2019 in Edmonton at the age of 70. They say he lived in the 1800 block of Drouillard Road, less than 2 kilometers from the home where Topic lived. That's where he lured her away on May 14, 1971, while she was playing outside her house in the 1200 block. Her body was found in an alley about a kilometer away. In 2019, police said they solved the case, but refused to name the person they say killed Topic. That decision was widely criticized by experts and the public. Today, a spokesperson says a Freedom of Information request by the Windsor Star and the fact they have a new police chief led them to release Hall's name.
Everything is done on a case-by-case basis, and of course, with our leadership, re-examining past cases and ultimately making that decision.
CBC also filed a Freedom of Information request but was denied. An appeal was also denied by police. An adjudicator finally forced the police to reveal the name. Police say DNA evidence led to solving the case. It's not clear if an adult tooth found at the scene was the source of the DNA. People in the neighborhood say they should have named the killer when the case was solved.
Unjustified. As far as I'm concerned, they should have at least released his name.
Well, this is the neighborhood where this all happened. Lubica Topic's house is no longer here. But I spoke with Lisa Whitehead, who grew up in the neighborhood and remembers playing with Lubica. She says she's glad that the police finally released Hall's name, but she says it should have been done much sooner. I also spoke with Valerie Potter, who also grew up here, and she says the same thing.
I'm just happy there's peace and resolution for the family, and that they let the world know. And I hope there's not more people that he hurt along through the years.
Windsor police say they are interested in hearing from anyone who can provide any further information linking Hall to other crimes. A criminology professor we spoke with says it is likely that Hall had more victims, and he says it's important his name and picture has been released.
Child sexual murderers inevitably, in most circumstances, are involved in serial crimes, not necessarily serial homicides. So by releasing this information, it recognizes that reality and that there may be other victims out there, other cases that may be able to be linked. Naturally, police are going to be interested in this suspect's movements since the time of the crime in Windsor.
People across the city formed search parties to help find the killer more than 50 years ago. Now, neighbors who lived that nightmare can finally have closure. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
And it was advancement in DNA technology, as Dale mentioned, that allowed police to say they found the man responsible, the man they believe was responsible, 48 years after the crime. One local criminology professor says it's amazing police are able to use new technology to solve old cases.
52 years ago, there was no such thing as any kind of DNA analysis. That didn't exist until probably the mid-1980s, and then it wasn't practical really until the late 1980s or the early 1990s. It really has changed the way in which justice is functioning. We've identified, for example, so many wrongful convictions as a result of this DNA technology. We're talking about evidence that is probably in bad shape, and that's not trivial to pull out DNA and find a match within a database and so on. After all those years, but they obviously the police managed to do that in 2019, which is very good, I think.
An update now on the earthquake in Turkey and Syria. The number of people who have died is approaching 20,000, and the concerns for the well-being of the hundreds of thousands of survivors is deepening. Syria today welcomed its first UN relief convoy 3 days after the earthquake hit. Across the region, tents are being erected, but many remain camping in parking lots or on roadsides in winter cold. More than 6,000 buildings collapsed in Turkey alone, and the number of dead is expected to rise. In the aftermath of the quake in Turkey and Syria, the need for aid is colossal, and the logistics of delivering it a bit of a nightmare. With a look at what the relief effort is confronted with, the CBC's Chris Brown reports.
The deeper you drive into Turkey's destruction zone, the harder it is for help to get where it's needed the most. In some cases, roads are too damaged, and the ones you can drive on are clogged. This is a 70-kilometer-long traffic jam headed to the ruined city of Antakya that even ambulances had difficulty getting through. With no police in sight, regular rules do not apply.
Although the earthquake zone is immense in some of the worst hit areas such as Antakya, there's only one major road that relief trucks can get in on, and it's gridlock chaos.
The driver told us he's carrying diapers, biscuits, and juice, and he's been stuck overnight. There need to be special lanes, said another, just for humanitarian supplies, like the bread he was carrying. Also trying to go somewhere, anywhere, were the newly homeless, families with nothing. We didn't have food or anything to drink, and we don't have any money, said this father. In the back of his truck was his wife, his cousin's wife, and their 7 kids. We're miserable. We're in the streets, and we don't know what to do. At least in Turkey, the world is sending help. Right next door in Syria, the complicated political situation has held up aid shipments. Some humanitarian supplies sent by the UN finally made it to Idlib, an opposition-held area that's largely suffered on its own. There are promises of more, but it's unclear when and how much. In Turkey, this is likely the beginning of a mass migration out of the earthquake zone, and for its victims, a reliance on handouts. God bless everyone who sends humanitarian aid, she told us. They're headed north, hoping other family members will give them a place to sleep and some time to figure out what to do next. Chris Brown, CBC News, near Antakya.
A round of applause to the team here for the incredible work that they do.
That was Ontario's Environment Minister at the Ojibwe Nature Reserve here in our region today. He announced more than $420,000 in grants to help protect animals in Windsor, Essex. The grants will be spread across 3 years for species at risk of extinction.
The key word today is partnership. That's why Jacques and the team are doing a fantastic job, and we're talking, we're about to sit down here at the table with Three Fires Group and others to look at building, on partnerships and working together to protect biodiversity here, and the Government of Ontario through a variety of funding envelopes, Greenlands Conservation Partnership Program, through Species at Risk Stewardship Fund, are making investments, working with grassroots local organizations. And I think that's the key piece, is leveraging expertise on the ground here.
It's part of our history. It's the people of Essex County have shared the land with these animals ever since there have been people here, pretty much. It's a symbol in our community. The LaSalle Vipers has it as a mascot. It's a symbol of wilderness. It's a symbol of a natural environment, and really it's an animal that teaches us how to coexist with something that not all of us is in love with, right? It's not everybody's favorite animal, but it teaches us the importance of sharing the land with all creatures.
Premier Doug Ford says he had a productive meeting today with federal ministers on healthcare funding, but says there's still work to do.
I always stress this. We have to consult with all the premiers right across the country, but it was a very positive meeting, and I'm very grateful for both ministers to come here in such short notice. But we all have the same objective, to make sure we deliver better health care right across this country.
Earlier today, the Premier and Ontario Health Minister Sylvia Jones met for about an hour at Queen's Park with Intergovernmental Affairs Minister Dominique LeBlanc and Federal Health Minister Jean-Yves Duclos. Now, this is the first one-on-one meeting between a province and the federal government since Ottawa unveiled its new healthcare funding proposal this week. Tomorrow, all the provincial and territorial leaders are scheduled to meet virtually in order to come up with a united front. And Queen's Park is starting to show its age. The building could need more than $1 billion in repairs. A legislative committee is in Ottawa hoping to learn from the renovation experience on government buildings there. Lorenda Redekop has those details.
It's a stately 130-year-old building. Impressive to look at. The history is everywhere, but there are problems. Check out the warning signs in the bathrooms. Because of lead pipes, it makes water coolers a must. There's also asbestos. The old radiators keep some rooms so hot, windows are cracked open all winter. So a Queen's Park committee took a road trip to Ottawa to learn what worked and what didn't on fix-up projects there. The reno at West Block took 7 years and cost $900 million.
They didn't put eaves troughs in because that wouldn't have been exactly heritage friendly, but now they have to clean all the walls all the time because of the drippage coming off of the roofs that, is staining the walls.
A staff estimate showed a full reno at Queen's Park could take 8 years. Another issue is technology. Bundles of wires everywhere in a building constructed well before internet or Wi-Fi. A repair job has been talked about for years, but is feeling more urgent.
As was presented by the folks who do the regular upkeep and maintenance, that the can has been kicked down the road for quite a while. And so now, the repairs are far more involved now. And that will only continue as the building continues to age.
The committee is considering a full building closure and moving the legislature elsewhere while that happens. Legislative Affairs Minister Paul Calandra says it would cost at least $1 billion. That's an amount the Canadian Taxpayers Federation says is too much. But one expert from the U of T believes it could add a couple hundred years to the building's life.
I think at the end of the day, like a root canal, we're always happy when it's over and done. But I don't think anyone should be, candy coating this. This is going to be an expensive, painful, time-consuming process because of the nature of the project.
But he says people should temper their expectations.
It's like restoring, a really fine old automobile. It's still a vintage automobile. It's not going to have the features of the latest technology.
Nothing's been decided yet, and any possible closure is still a few years away. The committee's next job will be creating an interim report looking at the deficiencies at Queen's Park. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Police in Quebec are still searching for a reason why a city bus plowed into a daycare in Laval, north of Montreal. The driver is facing charges that include first-degree murder, and while the investigation moves forward, the community mourns. The CBC's Jayla Bernstein reports.
Mementos, small gestures of comfort in the vacuum left behind after this stomach-churning nightmare.
These poor people that lost their kids, they didn't ask for that.
It's terrible. I'm sorry for all the parents.
All that's left is debris and a boarded-up hole where the bus smashed into this Laval daycare. 2 children are dead, 4 remain in hospital. The 51-year-old bus driver, Pierre Ni Saint-Amand, charged with murder. This group of men tackled the driver to the ground in the chaos after the crash. Premier François Legault reminded them to take care of their mental health.
I want to thank the men that were involved, all people who were involved right after, in the next seconds after it happened. And the only thing I can say is courage.
For the parents of the children who survived, mixed emotions. Their youngest daughter, 2 years old, was at the daycare yesterday.
It's difficult. We feel relief because our girl is unarmed, so she wasn't injured. But it's difficult to think about the other parents.
He says his 2 older daughters were friends with one of the children killed. The family is shaken. On the quiet street where the suspect lived, neighbors are reeling from the news. So far, there are no clear links between the daycare and the driver.
On saluait, il jouait avec ses enfants.
He says they would often say hello. He would see him with his 2 daughters in passing.
C'était quelqu'un très quiet, très calme.
She says he was very quiet, calm. They would say hello in the morning when he left for work on his bicycle. With many questions left unanswered, this neighborhood is doing what it can to grieve and heal. Jayla Bernstein, CBC News, Laval.
Still to come here on CBC Windsor News at 6. Sunshine and mild weather coming up in the week and in the weekend. Your full weather forecast is coming up next. Netflix is moving ahead with a crackdown on password sharing in Canada and several other countries. Households that still want to share an account will have to pay an added fee. The CBC's Sophia Harris explains what's behind the move and the reaction to it.
Many Canadians knew it was coming, but Netflix's announced crackdown on sharing accounts has still rattled many customers.
What am I going to do now? I watch everything on Netflix.
They tweeted password, like sharing your password is love, and now they're going back on it. It's kind of weird.
In 2017, Netflix promoted password sharing, but times have changed. On Wednesday, the streaming service started warning customers it will soon prevent them from sharing accounts with another household unless they pay an extra $8 a month and have an upper tier account.
Netflix account is for people who live in the same location. Just got the
Did you get a warning?
Yeah.
Morton Rand Hendrickson shares his Netflix account. He got his notice during this interview.
On my phone, it says I have to go to my TV and change my settings.
And when Rand Hendrickson tuned into Netflix, he was ordered to choose his primary address by February 21st to block other households from using his account.
It doesn't feel like the kind of thing a company that really cares about its customers is doing. It feels more like, let's take this opportunity to rake in more money to boost our profits.
Netflix admits it is looking for more cash. In a statement, the company said over 100 million households globally share accounts, impacting our ability to invest in new TV and films.
Dive into Disney Plus.
The streaming market is getting crowded with competitors, so some tech experts say Netflix needs to raise cash to up its game.
I think the reason that they're doing this is they got to be more competitive. They got to get people to start paying because it's expensive to produce content, and I think they're taking a gamble here.
So will the gamble pay off?
I would have to really think about it.
Rand Hendrickson says he plans to reassess his Netflix subscription, as there are now plenty of streaming services to choose from. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Vancouver.
Still to come here on CBC Windsor News, we'll bring you your weather right after the break and a new twist on Jeopardy in our region to mark Black History Month. That story is next. Time now for a live look at weather. Nick Cernkovich joins us. Nick, I have to say I'm enjoying these mild temps quite a bit.
Yeah, I would say so. Me too. A little bit different from what we're used to in the wintertime. I know it's unusual, but you know what? I mean, the weather sort of ebbs and flows, and in this case, we're seeing temperatures that are above seasonal. It has come with rain, though, but most of that rain fell through the overnight as we were chatting in the break there. Most of that was sort of gone by the morning, then sort of tapered off to showers. Still special weather statements, though, in effect, and the reason for that is going to be the winds. The winds are going to be picking up to about 70 kilometers per hour. Now, wind warnings far off to the east end of Lake Erie. However, still pretty breezy as we head through the overnight period tonight. Also looking at some lingering showers that are continuing through the evening, but most of that heavy rainfall is now pushed off to the east. As that sweeps across, cloud cover and behind it, you see the blue that's popping up. That's that cooler air that's driving down. Maybe a few flurries here and there as we head through tomorrow morning, but it's going to be too warm for anything to stick. And then tomorrow, I think I'm being a bit optimistic with the sunshine, but certainly by Saturday, we're back into the sunshine. That lasts for the next few days. Now, we did mention the winds, though. We are seeing winds at this point that are going to be anywhere from 60 to 80 kilometers per hour with the gusts. That slowly starts to ease off by tomorrow morning with wind gusts up to about 40 kilometers per hour, and then again continuing to ease by the time we hit tomorrow evening and into Saturday. So breezy conditions in place, special weather statement still in place, largely because of this. The rain itself is generally gone. Right now, sitting at 9 degrees. You mentioned mild. To put this in perspective, the average daytime high for this time of year, 0. The average overnight low is -8 for Windsor. Today's high sitting in the single to double digits, depending on where you are. Sarnia is still sitting at 12 degrees right now. And our overnight lows as well, staying above the 0 mark, 2 degrees for Windsor in the overnight, and pretty much everybody above 0. Now tomorrow, a little cooler, granted still above seasonal, 4 degrees. And again, I think this is a bit optimistic with the sunshine there. It's largely going to be cloudy with clearing skies toward the evening hours. Still breezy though. Cools off a little bit tomorrow night. Lots of sunshine for the weekend. Temperatures above seasonal right through until Tuesday. So how's that for mild?
That looks good to me. Thanks so much, Nick.
You bet.
A special version of Jeopardy is about to start in Chatham, Kent. The Red Barn Brewing Company will host the event. The focus, Black history. Chris Prince will be hosting the show.
The questions for the Jeopardy are going to be wide-ranging. There will be some Black history stuff naturally, but there is a lot of pop culture, some sports questions and things like that too. So you just can't study your Black history encyclopedias. You got to know a little bit of everything. So it's going to be things from today all the way back to, way back in the day, and not just national and international questions. There'll be a lot of locally focused questions as well too, because there's so many good stories here locally, and we're hoping that our contestants will be able to answer quite a few of them, because I know the museum has done a great job in sharing a lot of the stories. So a lot of them are becoming more mainstream now. So it's going to be fun.
All of the money will go back to the North Buxton Museum. They're getting ready to celebrate their 100th homecoming in September. The community was established as an Underground Railroad settlement in the early 1800s. The museum's coordinator says the museum is the center of the community and wants people to visit whenever they can.
I think it's really also important to let people know that Black History Month is not just for February. It is 365 days of the year. We're fortunate to have 3 sites in our community, but there's so many other communities that have some wonderful resources that are able to provide material, answers, questions, and they need to, and to visit them if at all possible.
And customers at one of Japan's biggest department stores are wrapping themselves up in bean bags, but instead of sitting down, they're bouncing around or stretching out to relax. Customers love the warmth, the comfort, and the flexibility of this wearable bean bag. The man who invented it says the idea came from, quote, chilling at home during COVID. At $160, think of it as a massage, kind of wrapped up in a sweater. Well, that's it for us here at CBC Windsor News. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, for news anytime, head to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. Don't forget to check us out on social media as well, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Have a great night.